Hello, friends!
Welcome to our podcast, The Celtic Coven.
I'm Cheyenne.
I'm Sage. Grab your cup of tea.
Or a cup of coffee.
And let's get comfy!
Hello, everyone!
Hello! Second podcast.
Second one.
Ooh.
We have been sitting here trying to think of ideas.
I know.
And today we thought the topic of relationships
Would be a good one.
would be a good one.
Yeah. I know, because we have so many ideas.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what do we want to talk about first? What should we more prep for a later one? This one seems like easy.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a good topic.
It's important, yeah.
Yes.
So, relationships. What is the first thing you think of?
Romantic relationships.
I think of romantic relationships. I think of friendships.
Mm-hmm.
I think of relationships with family.
Yeah.
Also, I think about boundaries.
Yes.
And I think about how relationships are important
Mm-hmm.
and support you can get. And so I think we should definitely cover all of that.
Cover all of our bases.
So,
I know, because I know we, in our last one, at the end, we half brushed up on, like, boundaries
yeah.
with people. And I feel like boundaries is a very good thing for you to have. Because if you don't have boundaries with people, or even just yourself, even,
Yeah.
everything's going to go into chaos.
Yeah. Well, like, what crosses the line, you know, and no matter what relationship you have when it comes to family, friends, or romantic partners,
Right.
there has to be a boundary line of, like,
Yes.
why do we let a family member do something that we wouldn't let our friend do?
Yeah.
Why is that a boundary? I think, and I know boundaries can be different for different people, but I feel like out of respect for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
even if a family member does something that you wouldn't allow a friend to do, then you shouldn't allow that family member to do that too.
Right, because, like, if you are fine with a family member saying something to you, like, oh, you look terrible in that. If you allow a family member to say that and a friend not to, it is almost like that's one of those things where if a family member or even a friend is saying something mean about you,
Yeah.
you should always have that boundary being like, you should not say that.
Yeah, you shouldn't allow people to be mean to you. Like, there's a difference between just being, like, a straight-up bully and just being nasty and having, like, criticism, like,
Mhm.
constructive criticism.
And I know some people's relationships with their friends are different. Like, you can sit there.
You can be playful and be like, yo, what's up, girl?
Yeah, like, right.
You dumb, yeah.
Right, you can be like, oh, you're stupid. And be like, yeah, so are you. And you both know it doesn't mean anything. But if you're sitting there being all like, no, you look absolutely terrible in that.
No, just degrading you and, like,
Yeah.
being so serious. Like
that is a very toxic friend.
Yeah.
And you should drop them.
Yeah, you don't need to be around them.
No. As long as both of the people are fine with what's happening and what's being said, everything's good. But once you start feeling like you are being degraded,
Like, oh, do they actually mean that?
then you should address it.
Yes.
And if they were being true about it, you should drop them.
Yeah, one of my friendships I've had before where our friendship was playful, where we said stuff and in, like, a joking way.
Mm-hmm.
But after a while, I started to feel like they felt like they were better than me, and that there was, like, a slight, like, shadow of, you know, thinking I'm less than or not as, like, bad or whatever. I don't know how to explain. And I started to feel like this, like, weird, like, energy from it, and just like,
yeah,
I don't like that. They kind of make me just feel like really bad about myself, that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And
a friend shouldn't make you feel like that.
And that went on for a good couple years, where it's just like, I don't know if like they actually mean it, but I don't like the energy from it.
Right. Because even if your friend is doing really well, looks great, doing great, they should still like hype you up.
Right.
And be like, oh, like if you're like, oh, you look so great, you're doing so good, they should be like, oh, you'll be doing good too. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. Like, you look amazing too.
Yeah.
Like, your friend should do that.
Yeah. And I mean, and not to say like, I don't want to just talk bad, but like those friends are really good friends, and they have been there for me before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I want to lean into as well, is that having good friends who support you, and can sit there and listen to you, is like the most amazing thing in the world, feeling that support.
Right.
And a friend I had, still have, we used to live really close, and so whenever either of us were feeling down, we were just like, yo, get over here, let's hang out, let's talk. And we would just sit on the porch and talk about so many different things, laugh and joke about stuff, and it really helped me through high school.
Right.
It really helped me through a lot of things, just being there with somebody.
Yeah.
Whenever you needed them. And of course that was when we were in high school, and now that we're older and we have our own places and stuff like that,
doing your own thing,
it's harder to do that. We don't live as close anymore, and it sucks. And all I can do is just really like appreciate the time that we could do that, and try to accommodate that now to adult life.
Right.
Because I still want that feeling of that great appreciation and just joy. But we've got so many things going on.
It reminds me of the meme where it's like older people trying to hang out with their friends. And they're like, oh, are you free Saturday? Oh, no, I have something going on Saturday. Let's try a different day. And never finds a different day.
Yeah, it always seems that whenever you want to coordinate something with your friend to try to hang out with them, you both are busy on the days you have free.
Yeah, like it's so opposite. Like, I'm free Saturday, but you're not. You're free on Thursday, I'm not.
Yeah. It is so hard, and sometimes your work schedule gets in the way,
and then you have other stuff going on outside of work. And then you're just like, I'm not working, yet I'm doing this other thing.
Yeah. And then there's just romantic relationships.
Always a mess.
I don't want to say they're always a mess, but it just seems like whenever you think you've met somebody really great, and just something about it's just not right.
Yeah.
And I know, like, with things, like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
All these people that you have relationships with are just stepping stones to help learn what kind of person you are, what you want in a person, and just getting you one step closer to the person who is best fit for you. And it's understandable, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, or that things happen where you're like, it's so stupid that this bad thing or this really sad thing had to happen.
Yeah.
And you can feel like, oh, it's so stupid. Why would this happen to me? Like, why do I feel this way? Why just...
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it has a purpose, but it does. And I also think it's important to talk about how, like, even if relationships end, that you can still look back at good times that you had with somebody.
It's also, too, you can learn from that relationship and figure out what things you can set boundaries for. And I think everyone has a certain standard that they want for a relationship, and some people have really high standards.
Yeah.
And some people have really low standards.
Yeah. But you have to find a happy medium between having really low standards and having really high standards.
Yeah, because I don't think your standards have to be super, super low.
No.
Like, you should
Well, because you should have respect. Yeah.
Right, and, like, you should be able to have someone who, like, as your base standards, someone who is nice, someone who wants to listen to how your day was.
Yeah.
Someone
respects you, loves you for who you are.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to change you and everything like that.
I feel like, not crazy high standards, but, like, some of those high standards that some people have are, like, I want him to be able to sing. I want them to be able to take me out to nice dinners every week.
Yeah.
And those are, like, yes, this would be nice, but you can't always get that.
It's not always realistic.
No. Because, like, if you are dating a really rich person, then, yeah, they could probably take you out to dinner, like a really nice dinner every week. But you're not going to always be able to find that type of person.
Yeah, who's going to also fit in other things. Like, it just depends. I mean, if you get lucky, then you get lucky. But...
Right, if you get lucky, then good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can learn from your relationships and set those boundaries where, in my next relationship, I'm not going to let this person do this to me. I'm not going to let them say this type of crap to me. And they should be able to respect that. And if your last relationship had bad communication,
make sure you make that a priority.
Yeah, make that a priority and say that up front, being like, hey, I think we should be open and be able to have really good communication with each other and be truthful when we're feeling down about something.
Well, communication in general with any relationship is so important.
Yes.
You need to be able to talk and listen to the other person and really take in what they're saying, and you should also get the respect of somebody else listening to you and really understanding what you're saying,
and have them being like, I understand you, I am listening to you. And if you're telling them something that they did, then apologizing. I mean, like, I'm sorry that I made you feel that way. Let me re-explain what I was trying to say. Or, like, I'm sorry that it came out that way.
And you should be able to come up with a compromise.
Yeah.
About whatever your situation is, or how you can work through an issue you're having, and you know what I mean, like.
Yeah. 'Cause I think with, like you said, communication is key for any relationship you're having with a romantic partner, friend, or family. And you should be able to feel comfortable telling them how you feel.
Yeah. If you don't if you don't have a warm, welcoming feeling to make someone feel like they are able to come up to you.
And you shouldn't make someone feel guilty for their feelings either.
No, absolutely not. But you should be able to show that you are willing to listen. And when it becomes really difficult when you've had past experiences of trying to talk to someone
and
they shut you down, or they don't listen, or they come up with other things. And a big deal which is very frustrating when somebody's trying to talk to you and open up with you, is when you start talking, like, let's say I'm talking to you about something that's happened or some way I'm feeling. The last thing I want to happen is for you to start talking about yourself. That's not showing that you're listening to me or supporting me or whatever I'm wanting to get from you.
Yeah,
like,
you just want that person to listen and be like, oh, dang, I'm sorry that's happening to you. I'm sorry that you're feeling that way.
Yeah, what can I do? Or try to talk to me more about whatever I'm talking to you about.
Yeah, like, oh, maybe you should, like, if you're, like, talking about, oh, I've been super stressed out lately because of work or whatever, I don't want that person to be all like, oh, yeah, work's been so stressful for me.
Too.
Or, and, like, I have this stuff going on, too.
And that's okay. We can talk about your stuff, too.
But I want you
right
to...
now, I want to talk and let my feelings out.
That person should be like, oh, I'm sorry. Maybe you should do yoga in the morning.
Focus on you for a while, and then you can switch.
Take a minute to breathe. Right. And be like, yeah, and I've been stressed out at work, too. Da-da-da-da-da. Be like, thanks for listening to me, acknowledging how I feel.
Yeah.
And giving me advice if you have some. Mm-hmm. Now we can move on to your thing.
Yeah. It just always seems like I start talking about something. Because it feels like a
competition.
Yeah, exactly. It just feels like a competition.
Being like, oh, you're stressed? I'm more stressed because I have this going on. I have this going on. You just have this one thing. And it's like, that's not...
Stress is different for people.
Yeah.
And in any relationship you have with somebody, know that it's important to have the focus on one person at a time.
Yeah.
You don't need to be like, well, me too. Like, you can relate. You can say that you're stressed too. But let's just wait. I came to you to open up and vent about something. Let's talk about it. Let's focus on me for a minute so I feel like I'm getting the support that I need.
Right. And I feel like I've gotten the bad habit of just... I wouldn't say it's a bad habit. It's just like a habit that I wish I didn't have so much. Is I'm a person that really likes listening to my friends talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if they're upset, I'm like, just tell me. Like,
yeah.
I'll listen, and like I'll give you advice if I have it. And then I'm over here being that person where I'm not having... Like, I don't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah,
about
you're always
how
the
I
person
feel.
Somebody else comes to.
Because I don't want to, like, be that person where it's like, okay, here's your thing. Now here's my thing. I just want to have that person to talk and express how they're feeling. And then if they're sad at that moment, I can make them feel better.
Yeah.
And, like, be like, oh, let me show you this thing that I saw. It was so funny. And then make them feel better. And I don't want to push my problems on them.
While they're trying to talk to you
right
about something that they're dealing with.
Right. And so, like, I have a hard time being able to talk to people about how I feel. Because I've been dealing with it by myself. And at that point where someone's like, hey, how you doing? I've already dealt with stuff. And I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not, like, really feeling it at that moment. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm fine.
I think if you're a person who feels that way, one, look at the friends that you have and see, and just try to open up to somebody. But if you really feel like you can't open up to somebody, I think an important thing is to get a therapist.
Yes. And I do want to get a therapist. I feel like everyone should have a therapist.
Yep.
And even if they're not going through anything. And it's like, it's not the fact that I'm not comfortable talking to my friends about things. Mm-hmm. It's just the fact of I want them to be okay.
Yeah.
And if they're upset about something, I want to listen to them and make them feel like their feelings are valid.
Yeah.
And I want to make them feel better. Yeah. And I just don't want to push my problems on them.
Right. Which makes sense. I think that also leans into having a relationship with yourself.
Yes.
You should be able to be solitary.
Yeah.
And enjoy your time alone and, like, do things by yourself that you enjoy.
Yeah, go out to dinner by yourself.
Why not?
Why not? That's not sad.
No. Having a good relationship with yourself can create a really good foundation about who you are to be able to have better relationships with other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, because I always hear the thing of, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself.
Yes.
And that's very hard to do, especially if you want to be in a relationship and you have a lot of stuff going on in your head, you, on the surface level, can say, I can love someone else, like, I can do that, I can love them, but, and then you're having all this stuff internally that you're not dealing with.
I think that kind of goes in with, like, a self-esteem thing and whatever, but you need to, like, talk to yourself in a loving way. You should be able to communicate with yourself and really take care of yourself and know what is making you happy and know yourself the best. You are always with yourself all the time.
No one knows you better than you do.
Right. And so I think it's really, really important to have a really good relationship with yourself, and that way it will make it easier to have other relationships with other people, because then you can figure out what your boundaries are, what your expectations are, and you can also lean towards people who have the same interests as you.
Yes.
So building that good foundation helps you find the people you're meant to be with.
Yeah.
Who
and
are
I
good
think
for you.
I think it's fine too, like, if you're working on yourself, like, if you're truly, like, trying to work on yourself and you meet someone, I think that's okay, because as long as you keep working on yourself, even if you're with someone, you'd still be able to know how to love them.
Yeah, I think it's
because you're learning how to love yourself.
Yeah, I think it's great to have somebody support you. And sometimes people aren't willing to have the patience to do that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That means they're just not meant to be. Just because a person doesn't have the patience doesn't mean that they don't love you.
Right.
That just means that they're not the right person for you. Because the right person who you're meant to be with, in a sense,
will tell you,
will be patient and will help you and will work through, because they see that potential in you,
like, you
and are
your
willing
time
to work with you on it and can't wait to see you achieve your goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, being really supportive. Like, just because that person loves you doesn't mean they can be supportive in every sense.
Or be supportive how you need to be supported.
Yeah. It's the same thing with family, where your family can love you, but do they actually support you? Are they actually there, like, cheering you on when you need it?
Right.
Like, because I feel like sometimes that happens where, like, with family, it's all, like, the unconditional love. They're your family, you're supposed to love them. Mm-hmm. But are they actually there showing you that they love you? Are they actually
giving you the support and nurturing that you need?
Like, I'm trying to do this, and they're just, and you're like, can you help me? And they're just like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. Or changes the subject.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and you're just like, you say that you love me, and you say that you support me, but you're not really showing it.
Yeah. I think it makes you question if they love you, and I don't think that they don't love you.
Yeah.
I just think that maybe they don't know how you specifically need. Yeah. And I think that's where a communication thing comes in. Trying to communicate to them about what your needs are. And at that point, if they are still not listening to you, communicating with you, or changing the way they are supporting you,
Yeah.
I would try to seek support somewhere else. And I know that can be really hard because sometimes you want a certain person's support.
Right, you want a support system.
Yeah, and like from a specific person, and they just sometimes can't give it to you.
Yeah.
And that can be a really hard thing to process.
Right, and even if they are trying to, like, are having a hard time supporting you, sometimes they don't express that they're like, hey, I don't know how I can support you. Right, like, they're not expressing how, like, they're like, I just don't know how to support you. And
ask me how you can
because if you're not saying, I don't know how I can support you,
now I just think you don't care.
Right, like, you're just standing there being like, okay, so you don't love me, you
don't care to help me.
You don't care about me. But, like, if you're communicating how you're feeling, and it goes both ways of communication, that's when it works, where
now you can figure something out.
Right, like, yeah, if someone's saying, hey, this thing that you said, it really hurt me, you can be upset about that and be like, I made this person I really care about upset.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But you have to also be like, hey, I'm sorry that I made you feel that way. What can I do to change that? Do I need to change how I'm wording it? Do you want me to explain what I was meaning? You know?
Yeah.
And that's, like, seriously, we should rename this communication. And, like, it's so good for any relationship you have. Romantic, friends, family, whatever.
Well, and that leads me into another thing of, like, I've had conversations with people, and I express something that maybe they've done, and then we have a whole deep conversation about it. Everyone apologizes for maybe whatever they've done wrong or whatever the situation is.
Right. And you shouldn't...
And they say, like, I'm not going to do that again. And then you turn around.
And they do it
and
again.
they do it again.
Yeah.
And now that's breaking trust. And that's boundary of relationships where if that keeps happening, that needs to be a boundary of, like, okay, this is not working out very well. We need to figure something out, or I just need to, cut off connection with you, or whatever it is.
Because if you are with someone, like, if we just put it as a relationship, if your partner is doing something that you don't like and you explain it to them, like, hey, I did not like that you said this, or I didn't like that you were doing this, and they're like, you have this deep conversation, and you can have that conversation with them again and express, hey, we talked about this, like, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. That's fine. But if they keep doing it, and if they keep, like, I feel like after, like, the third time, after you've had 2 deep conversations about it,
yeah,
that's when you should say, hey, I really did not like this. I can't keep dealing with this. I don't want to have to keep dealing with this. And that's at the point where you should just be like, set those boundaries and be like, I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you shouldn't have to accept someone, like, not listening to you or ignoring you or making your feelings invalid.
Yeah, allow people to do that.
Right. Like, you shouldn't allow them to do that. And if the first time you guys have that conversation, you're like, oh, my bad. Second time, be like, oh, my bad, whatever. At the third time, you just gotta say, I'm not gonna allow you to do this anymore.
Right.
I'm not gonna let you keep doing this. I also want to talk about, like, what you should have in a healthy relationship, which I looked some stuff up. So, under the umbrella of, like, having, like, basic respect for another human being are being accountable.
Yeah.
Which is like admitting your mistakes when you're wrong, accepting responsibility for behaviors, attitudes, and values. So like you should even do it to yourself.
Yeah.
Where if you know you did something wrong, you be like, you know what?
I'm holding myself accountable. I'm going to admit to my wrongs.
Right. Like,
yeah.
Like, I know I did something wrong. And you should be able to acknowledge that yourself even and go up to your partner and say, hey, I did this wrong. I am sorry.
Yeah. And no buts or nothing. Just all you have to do.
Like, no excuses. Just, I am sorry that I did that.
Right.
And then you can talk through it and be like, no, it was okay. Like, I understand. Like, I know you didn't mean to or whatever. But as long as you're admitting that you did something wrong, it's good.
Yeah.
And so another one is safety. So what's under that is refusing to intimidate or manipulate, respecting physical space, expressing self non-violently. So that's basically having a safe space.
Yeah.
And if you're going to communicate with your partner, you should have a safe space to do so. So like you should know that if you're going to say something to your partner that upset you, they're not going to react in a crazy
physical, malicious way.
Yeah. Like you should know that they're not going to yell, that they're just going to respond being like, oh, okay, let's talk about this. Yeah. And not just blow up in your face and being like, what the heck? Because the last thing you need is having like a hard time telling someone something and then
them turning around and just making it worse by blowing up or something.
And if like you're having a hard time saying something to someone and you're thinking of all the bad things that they could do, like after you saying that, like, are they gonna yell at me? Are they gonna hit me? Are they like, how will they react? And then you say it and they react very poorly.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if they react very poorly multiple times, it's not gonna make it better.
That's not a safe situation.
No, you should be able to tell someone something and then being like, okay, let's talk about this, instead of blowing up in your face and being like, what the heck? No, this is not right. Like, what the heck is this? You know?
Yeah. And
scream and yell about it. Like, you should be able to be confident of what you want to say to someone.
Yeah, you want to be heard. You want to feel like you can comfortably have a nice conversation with somebody, or comfortably communicate with somebody.
Yeah. And I know we touched up on this, but support. So supporting each other's choices, being understanding, offering encouragement, listening non-judgmentally, and valuing opinions.
Yeah.
And you should be able to do that, being on like supporting each other. Like if you're going through a hard time, be able to support your partner or whoever and be like, you can keep doing this. Like, I'll be here if you need me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And be able to do that. And, I mean, that's offering encouragement too. Like, being like, I know you can do this.
Yeah. Like,
keep doing it because I know you'll be able to do this.
If someone has a hard time with self-love and they're struggling with that and they express that to you, that they have a hard time with their self-confidence and stuff, as a friend, partner, family member, whoever, you should try to help that person and point out, like, no, you are great, you are this, you are that, you are beautiful, you're amazing, whatever they're struggling with, and be that support and be that voice to keep reminding them you are good, you are this, and be supportive in that sort of way as well.
Right. Another thing would be cooperation. So under that is asking and not expecting. So example would be like, don't expect someone to help you just because you feel like they should. Ask them to help. Be like if you're picking up a big box, don't expect them to help you with the box. Ask them, hey, can you help me with this?
Yeah.
Another one is like accepting change. I feel like it's hard for people to accept when something is changing or is different.
Yeah, I think when people know that somebody is toxic, they get used to having that person around.
Right.
And it's hard for them to back away because of change.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be aware of that and know what is best for you.
Yeah, I think especially if that person doesn't show their true colors right away and you get really deep into that person.
Yeah.
And then once they show their true colors, you have a hard time leaving.
Yeah, you've become attached.
Yeah. Because you're like, no, I know that they're better. Like, they're just going through a rough time. And you're like, make excuses.
In denial.
Yeah. Yeah. I also wanted to touch on boundaries again. We kept saying, set boundaries. But there's different types of boundaries. And so, what I was looking at was there's about like 7 different types of boundaries that you can have in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I guess some of them are different depending on which type of relationship you're talking about. But there's physical boundaries concerning your body and personal space.
Yeah.
So, like, if you don't feel comfortable with people hugging you,
Yeah.
you need to express that.
Right away.
Yes.
And I think it's important that people also ask before they go and hug you, or, you know, some people will like come and just touch your hair. Say,
Yeah.
oh, can I touch your hair? Oh, can
Yeah.
I give you a hug? If they say no, don't force
be like,
yourself.
why? Just be like, okay.
Yeah, just okay. But
Yeah.
putting that boundary, you're just like, oh, I'm not a hugging person. Like, maybe once I get a little bit more comfortable with you, then yeah. But I just want to put that out there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also sexual boundaries. Talking about your sexual preferences and kinks and all.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, like, that's for romantic relationships.
Yeah.
So, like, you should have that boundary where...
Don't force yourself on somebody if they don't want to.
Like, and don't... If someone wants to do something and you're not comfortable with it, you should express, hey, I don't want to do this. And they shouldn't pressure you into doing it.
Yeah.
Like, if you feel like, oh, I'm curious, maybe let's see.
Well, even if you start to, and then at some point maybe you get uncomfortable, you should be able to say, oh, I think we need to stop.
Yeah.
And you respect that. You respect that person.
Be like, okay, let's stop. We can do something else. Or do you need a minute? Or whatever.
Exactly. I think that is, like, so serious with some people, like, want to move so fast.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, I'm fine. I'm comfortable with it. Or some people just are so comfortable in their body that sexual things aren't that crazy for them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're more comfortable with doing that stuff right away. And they don't realize that there's still people who are wanting to take things slower.
Yeah.
That want to slowly build that up to get to know you first. Because if they just let everything go right away and then, like, you break their heart or something like that, or whatever happens, now they've given themselves to you and you're taking a piece of them. You get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
They want to slowly get more comfortable and be more vulnerable with you.
Right, because if you push them to do something and push them, and then they're finally like, okay, and you do it, and then like almost immediately be like, I'm done with you. Yeah. They're gonna feel used.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard for them to be vulnerable like that in other relationships. So now you're just ruining other relationships for that person.
Yeah.
And
I think people just need to be more mindful and at least care somewhat about somebody else's feelings. You know what I mean? Like,
and ask. Care. Like, ask if they're okay. Ask if they're doing okay. You know? Because it's like, I know there are some people who are scared to do things, but they want to push, they want to push themselves to do it. So you should ask and be like, are you doing okay?
Yeah.
Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
And be like, yes, I'm scared, but keep going.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, just gotta check in.
Know your audience.
Yeah. There's also financial boundaries, which is...
Oh, that's a big one in every aspect, any relationship.
Yes.
Like, there's some people who want to help others in any way they can.
Yes.
And a lot of struggles people have is with money.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person who doesn't mind lending someone money or whatever.
Right.
But it has become a problem in the past. And I think if it's smaller amounts, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But either make it very clear, like, a person owes you money back, or just don't give people money.
Yeah, like, you need to, like you said too, like, know your audience. Like, if you know that a person's not gonna give you your money back when you loan them money, don't give them money.
Yeah.
Because if you've given them money before and they haven't paid you back and they ask you for money again, be like, no, I've loaned you money before a couple times and you have not paid me back. I'm not going to lend you any more money because I know you're not going to give it back.
And it's okay to be a person who wants to help and you don't mind spending money on people or giving them some money. I know, because
I do that. Like, I don't mind spending money with my friends. Like, if they're like, oh, I don't have any money to pay for, like, snacks or food or whatever, I'm like, I don't care, I'll pay for you. I don't mind.
Well, and money has been a very big thing in a lot of my relationships with past relationships, like romantic relationships I had, where, oh, I buy food the next time you buy food. I buy food next time you buy food.
Yeah.
And that works out totally fine. If you figure out a different way, like, whatever works for you and your partner, that's cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, if my partner wants to pay for food a lot of the time, I'll be like, no, I can get it. But if they're like, no, like, I don't mind getting this, I want to treat us right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell them no.
Yeah.
Like, if they truly want to do it, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, like, if it's good, like, if you guys are going out to eat regularly, be like, oh, I'll pay this time, you can pay the next, whatever.
Yeah, and then you have situations where people abuse the fact or don't care that you're spending so much money in certain situations and they're not helping in any sort of way, like in living situations. And that can cause a lot of stress and trust issues within those relationships with people.
Yeah. Another one is time boundaries. So that's not giving 100% of your time to other people and taking that time for yourself.
And we touch base on that about having a relationship with yourself.
Yeah. Where you can't always be there for other people.
Yeah.
Because you might be going through stuff. So you should take that time being like, hey, I've been at work all day. I'm tired. I do not want to go out tonight. I want to be by myself. I want to sit on the couch, relax, or I want to take a nap. Like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And people should respect that. Being like, don't force you to come out. Don't be like, hey, I just haven't seen you all week. I mean, like, I've been busy all week.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I've been working.
And no, it's
relax.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I've had that experience too with friendships I have, where I used to get really upset about, oh, come on, you said you were going to hang out, you said you were going to do this, and now you're backing out. The older I've gotten, I've become more understanding, in the sense of, like, we make some plans, or we just talk about the idea of maybe hanging out a certain time.
Yeah.
And sometimes people get busy, and I'm just like, okay, I understand. Or sometimes that other person is just like, I'm just not feeling it today. I really want to stay home. And I'm just like, okay, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be upset about it. I understand.
Because you've had those days.
Yeah, you've had those days before. And so respecting that in your relationships with people is very important, because you have to think about, if you're in that position, what if you made plans and then maybe you had a really, really bad day, and you're just tired.
Yeah.
And you can be respectful to the other person, in the sense of, like, I'm sorry, today I'm not feeling it. Is there another day soon that we can hang out or reschedule, you know?
Yeah. And that kind of leads into emotional boundaries.
Yeah.
Of, are you emotionally available?
Yeah.
For that person? And if you are sitting with yourself and you're just not wanting to be around people at that moment, don't force yourself to be.
No.
Because if, like we were saying, like, if you were at work all day and it was super busy, you know, like, don't force yourself to go out with people if you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Because, or like, if you've been hanging out with people all week, like, with some jobs you're interacting with people a lot.
Yeah.
And you're just socially drained. And you're like, I can't be around people anymore. I need to be by myself.
Yeah.
And need to recharge socially and emotionally until I can hang out with people again.
Right. And that goes for everyone. Sometimes people just need a break.
Yeah.
And you as a person should respect that and care and understand, like, be understanding in those situations.
Right. Another one is intellectual boundaries. I've set these type of boundaries with friends.
Yeah. And
I've said them out loud before to other people, where if, like, my example is different political views.
Yeah.
I don't mind being friends with other people who have different political views than I do.
Right.
As long as you're not trying to force your views on me.
Oh, exactly.
And are trying to explain, like, why yours is better than mine. Or even different religions.
Yeah.
I don't mind being friends with a Christian, as long as they're not forcing me to believe Christianity is better than Wiccan.
Yeah.
I can have an intellectual conversation with you and be like, oh, in my belief system we do this. And they can be like, in ours we do this. Oh, that's kind of the same, in a sense.
Yeah.
But don't try to say, oh, there's only one God. Your crystals don't do anything. You're gonna go to heaven. You're like...
Yeah, be respectful of other people's beliefs and opinions.
And political views.
And don't pressure so much or try to sway people. You can have an adult conversation with somebody about your beliefs.
Yeah.
And learn and understand, or, you know, just let somebody else talk about their beliefs and be able to be open about it. But it's not really a comfortable thing when somebody's like, no, you're wrong. My way is right. This is the only way. That's not a very good way to have a good relationship with somebody.
Yeah. Because people are going to feel how they feel.
Yeah, people are different.
And that it kind of reminds me of New Girl, where Jess is a Democrat.
Yeah.
And Schmidt is a Republican, and they don't talk about it that often. Because there was, in one of the seasons, I don't remember it right now, where it was the elections.
Yeah.
And then, yes, they were talking about their different political views. But they don't talk about politics with each other as a friend group.
Yeah.
Because they don't need to.
Yeah.
Like, all of them probably have kind of different political views, but they don't talk about it because they don't need to.
Yeah.
That's not part of their
unnecessary.
Friendship.
Yeah.
And so, like, watching the show, I'm like, I always forget that Schmidt's actually a Republican.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's mind-boggling, but also, like, I understand a little bit. Like I can see that.
Yeah.
With how his, like, character is.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, he's a Republican?
Yeah.
But, yeah, it just reminds me of that.
It just, the whole point is, like, it doesn't matter because he's not pressuring his political views on everyone else.
No.
Or vice versa.
And he doesn't push it on any of his relationships, being all like, no, you should be a Republican because of this. He has his feelings towards his political views.
Yeah.
And that's how he feels. And he's just all like, just says, okay, like, you go vote whoever you want to. And the last one that's here is expectation boundaries.
Yeah.
On here it says, high expectations might not work. Talk about what you expect.
Yeah.
So, like, that kind of goes on, like, having standards. Like, boundaries and standards are different.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes on standards where there's those basic things where you should listen to me when I'm talking. You should, like, validate my feelings.
Yes.
And everything.
Simple human things. But
basic
I think
human respect.
Yeah.
At the base.
You should have that expectation for whoever you're with. But, like, there's expectations in, like, romantic relationships where people are expecting you to have a certain amount of schooling, be at a certain place in your life at whatever age you're at, be a certain body type, or be this or be that.
So that they're on the same
and it's like,
you guys are in the same level.
It's like this high pressure. And it's okay to have expectations and have your ideal person, but I think pressuring that onto someone who maybe is moving at a different pace or is in a different place in their life, you need to learn how to create that, like, boundary, that difference of support, and also
like you should accept that person
as
they are and not try to force them to change themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you're dating someone who's a little overweight, you should accept them as they are. And if you want them to be healthier, you should just kind of be like, hey, do you want to go on a walk?
Just like respectfully encourage the person without making them feel bad.
Yeah.
And make
like
them,
being like, I love you how you are.
Yeah.
I just want you to be healthy. Let's eat healthy. Let's work out a little bit. Let's just go on walks.
Yeah, and not say mean things or do mean things that make them feel disgusting.
Right. Yeah. A couple ways to set boundaries are like we said before, you can learn from your old relationships.
Yeah.
So you can identify what boundaries you would like to set.
Yeah, what really happened that was like, okay, yeah, that needs to be a boundary. I realize in these situations, like, it makes me feel uncomfortable, makes me feel upset, and that for sure needs to be a future boundary. not only in romantic relationships, but with friendships.
Yeah.
And family members and things like that.
Yeah. Be direct with your boundaries.
Yeah.
Where you have a certain boundary and you don't stray from it. There's no silver lining. There's no gray area with it.
Or, it only applies to this person or these type of people. Like, no. Everyone.
Yeah. Don't explain yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you have your boundary for a reason, and you don't need to explain why you have it.
Well, and if people can't respect your boundary, or they don't like it, like, that's your boundary.
Yeah.
And if they don't like it, they don't need to be in your life. If they can't respect that.
Right. And, like, you should mention your boundaries casually in conversation when you're meeting new people, because it's kind of weird if you're just sitting there and just be like, hey, I have this certain boundary.
Yeah.
Don't cross it. Like, just kind of, if you're having a conversation, be like, oh yeah, I don't really like getting hugged, or, you know, or
do it in a nice way where it doesn't seem like you're, like, attacking a person either, or, like, singling them out or something like that. Just make it nice and casual.
Yeah.
Because you don't want the other person to feel attacked, so.
Yeah, and you should really not be, like, so broad about it. Like, you should...
Yeah, be very specific about it.
Yeah, be specific of what your boundary should be. And even if you don't get the chance to tell a person what your boundaries are when you first meet them, if you happen upon a situation where that person is violating your boundaries, you should let them know that, hey, I didn't, like, this is a boundary that I have, and you should explain how you could do that differently in the future.
Yeah.
And be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
I also want to tell people, like, what things you could look for in, like, a healthy relationship and then, an unhealthy relationship. Just because sometimes you don't see the signs for yourself.
Yeah.
And other people can be like, hey, this person's doing this. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And then you give excuses for that person, being like, oh, they just had a bad week or whatever. But, like, if a person's having a bad day, they should not throw it on you.
Yeah.
And make you feel bad.
Yeah.
But some things of healthy relationships, and this is in any type of relationship at all, basically.
Right.
Feeling responsible for your own happiness. So you shouldn't
rely
on someone else for your happiness.
Yeah.
And so that kind of goes to unhealthy, where you're relying on someone else to make you happy.
Yeah.
And you should be able to make yourself happy.
And that goes into having a good relationship with yourself,
right,
and knowing yourself and knowing what makes you happy, and being able to be solitary at times and just enjoy your own company.
Right. Obviously, healthy relationships are open and honest.
Yeah.
And unhealthy are game playing or manipulation.
Yeah.
Where you shouldn't gaslight your partner.
Yeah, no.
Gaslighting is bad, bad, bad. Like, some people don't know what gaslighting is, so I'll just give an example where a very broad example is if you're like, hey, you said this to me, and then the person's like, no, I didn't. I never said that. Why would I ever say that?
Yeah.
And then you're like, I clearly heard you say that yesterday. And they're like, no, I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe you're going crazy.
Yeah.
That's, no. If you know what you heard, that's what you heard. And the other person be like, oh, yeah, I did say that. My bad.
Yeah.
And that's owning up to you do something wrong.
They're trying to make you believe something else that you didn't do.
Right. And like another unhealthy thing is like being jealous. If you truly love your partner and trust them, you shouldn't be jealous. Like, if they go to the gym and their trainer is a girl, if you trust your partner, then it should be fine. But if you know that your partner would probably cheat, first off, you should not be with that person. Right. If you know that they're going to probably cheat on you, you shouldn't even try to, like, oh, let's see if they do or don't.
Yeah.
If you think they're going to, just end it.
Or even,
talk about it.
Yeah.
But, like, if you truly trust your partner, that
shouldn't be an issue.
You shouldn't be jealous. And, like, a healthy thing is respecting the differences between you and your partner.
Yeah. You guys aren't going to be the same.
No.
In every aspect. You're not going to have the same interests, everything. And they're like uniqueness. You love all of their little quirks and stuff like that.
Yeah, because, like, you guys could have met for some reason of, like, you met somewhere, like a convention or whatever. So you guys like a couple things the same. But if your partner doesn't like a certain show, don't be like, oh my god, you've never seen this show or you don't like this show. How dare you?
Yeah.
Like, it can't be a deal breaker.
No.
You know? Or if, like, your partner isn't as healthy as you and doesn't go work out every single day like you do, you should just accept that and be like, hey, I wish you to be healthier, but I know sometimes that's hard for you.
You can encourage. I know sometimes, like, especially with that aspect of, like, health, sometimes it is a little easier to have your partner be the same type of, like, activeness that you are, like, the same level.
Yeah.
Because then you guys can do things together, but it definitely should not be a deal breaker unless it starts truly affecting you. Like, if my partner is a very active person and they love going to the gym, that doesn't affect me at all. Like, no. That doesn't bother me, and I'm not gonna break up with a person just because they're, like, a gym junkie or something like that.
Right. I'll be like, okay, have fun at the gym.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just sit here and do work or...
That's your thing.
Whatever.
Cool.
Yeah. This I didn't really realize was a unhealthy thing and a healthy thing.
Yeah.
So, healthy is accepting endings. Even if you guys didn't work out for some reason, if it was a healthy relationship, you'd be able to accept it and be like, I understand why we're done. Like, I understand why this couldn't work out.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. And an unhealthy one is unable to let go, where you have a hard time letting that person go, and sometimes in an extreme case it's Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Where, like, if you get kidnapped and you're with that person for many years, you start to feel like they love you and you feel safe with them, even though they literally took you.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, if the police find you and try to take you away from them, you feel like you're not safe with anybody else but them.
Yeah.
And you can't really let them go. But that's in, like, extreme cases. But even, like, still extreme, but less extreme, is just being in an abusive relationship where if you've been with that person for, like, years as, like, a true relationship, and they abuse you and they treat you like if you weren't with them you would be nothing.
Yeah.
It's hard for you to leave when people are like, hey, you're in a abusive relationship, you should leave, and you're like, I can't leave them, because they've forced you into thinking that you without them will never amount to anything. But with those people, they need a support system where you know that you can let go.
Yeah.
And you can find people who will help you get out of that.
Yeah.
And if you are in that kind of relationship, please get out of that.
Yeah.
It's not something that you need in your life.
Yeah. Overall, I think it's good to be aware of what is healthy and what is toxic.
Yeah.
And it's always a good thing to have good, healthy people in your life. Yeah. And being surrounded by people who you aspire to be.
Yeah.
And people who support you and are supporting you in the way that you need them to. And
yeah, and if people aren't living up to who you want in your life,
yeah,
you should not keep them in your life.
Yeah.
Because what you need is what's best for you. And if someone in your life is not good for you, there's no reason for you to keep them in your life. You can let them go.
Yeah, you aren't obligated to be friends with somebody or continue to stay in a relationship with somebody or have a relationship with a family member just because they're your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea to learn what makes you happy, boundaries, and enjoy your friendships. Have fun.
Yes.
And don't be scared to open up to people.
Yeah. I knew at the beginning of this it was just be a really deep talk.
Yeah.
And we might get deep, but that got really deep towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good wrap up.
Yeah.
For this week. I think everyone has the information that they need. That
we've gotten some things off our chest.
You can tell who's being toxic in your life and just get them out. Yeah. You don't need them anymore.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up today's podcast.
Yes.
If you guys are enjoying them, please like and subscribe.
Yeah, and if you guys have any suggestions of topics, put them in the comments. We have an Instagram. We have a TikTok. Those are all linked. We'll put them in the description, but they're also linked on our page.
Yep.
If you would like to follow those, and you can put suggestions on our TikTok and Instagram
posts.
And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.